There he is. Now, where's Barry Cowley? Barry, would you stand as well, please? Where is he? Somebody point to Barry for me. There he is there. Stay standing. Barry, back on your feet. All right, Dave Wareham. Where's Dave Wareham? Somebody point to Dave for me. There's the, hi Dave, how are you? And Robert Thurston. There he is over there. Where's Hallett Griffin? Hallett Griffin. Come on, Hallett, where are you? Somebody point, oh there, Hallett, stand up, come on. Yeah, all right. Denny Atkinson. Where's Denny? Standing, please. Somebody point at Denny. He's out having a bag. Oh, hell. Because I've got to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, those people that we have just named are all criminals. Now, during the David Longy years, these gentlemen flew their aircraft right over Parliament buildings in flagrant disregard for the aviation rules. And I feel the punishment that should be meted out to them is that when you go to the bar, the next drink's on them, all right? Hey, well done, guys. Congratulations. You can sit down. It's nice to recognise those who have stood up for their industry. Ladies and gentlemen, your dessert is served at the back of the room. Just as soon as the queue gets short enough to suit you, you're welcome to go and help yourself to some dessert. So dessert is served at the rear buffet. Thank you. How many Canterbury supporters here? How many Otago? Holy shit. I think I'll be changing. All right, if I could have your attention now, just a little bit of, or before a little bit of serious gets underway, a really interesting thing happened to me the other day in a McDonald's, you know, the McDonald's for the hamburgers. I was in a queue behind this lovely little old couple. They were the classic mum and dad. They were beautiful. They obviously loved each other, and they looked after the kids in the queue next to them. They were wonderful. You just wanted to hug them. And I noticed that when they got to the counter, they bought one hamburger. They bought one small chips, and they bought one cup of tea with 2 cups. And then they sat down at the table and they counted the chips out. One for you, one for me, one for you, one for me. And they got the cup of tea and they decanted half of it, so they had half a cup of tea each. And then he pulled out his Swiss Army knife and he cut the hamburger in half. And he put half in front of her and half in front of himself. And I walked over and I said, gee, you're such a lovable old couple. I mean, here, let me buy you a hamburger. I mean, no need to go without. I'll buy one for you. And they said, listen, son, it's our 50th wedding anniversary, and all through our lives we have shared absolutely everything. Absolutely. We're not changing now. Thank you very much for your kind offer, but we're okay. So I stood back, and the old fella, he grabbed his hamburger and started to get stuck into it. Meanwhile, his wife sat there and just looked around the restaurant. And I said to her, excuse me, aren't you going to eat your burger and half a chips and half a cup of tea? She said, no, not yet, not yet. It's his turn with the teeth. All right, down to some serious business now. If you'd pay attention for just a few moments, I'd like to ask Noel Kinvick to come forward and say a few words. Noel. They keep talking, I may whistle.
Good God. Well, there's one little thing that my friend here missed. There are really 2 more criminals. One is Alex Foster, and the other Chris Pask. Please stand up. Now, I think before we get into real serious stuff, we should propose a toast to all our absent and departed friends. Their participation in the industry were just as important as all the rest of us. So charge your glasses and have a big drink. Absent friends. Okay. I think a lot of thanks have to go to Noel Mangum, Barry Cook, and Dick Jones. And their poor wives. They've probably had to go through a hell of a lot of suffering. I don't know. I don't know. Around? Anyway, at the moment I'm living in Budapest, and I've come here specially for this function. So I'll hand this back to my mate here and hope he can do a better job than me.
Thank you, Noel. You did a great job. Well done. Now, I have to introduce to you now our special after-dinner speaker. He is Australian. You know, you can never be sure of the reaction you're going to get to that statement. He is Jim Hazelton. Jim, if you'd like to come forward, I understand he has a few words of wisdom for us all. Stay close in here, Jim, and get quite close to that mic. Follow me. I'll let you up here.
He hasn't got a press release. Hello, good evening, everybody. Well, it's quite loud, isn't it? I'm here at, probably under false pretenses, that Noel, he's a very persuasive guy. Somehow he managed to rope us into this thing, and here I am. God help us. Well, the best thing I can do, I think, is start off by telling you who the Hazeltons are in Australia, because I guess about 90% of you here wouldn't have never heard of us. We happen to be a flying family, I guess. I've got a brother who's sitting over there now. He owns the airline in Sydney called Hazelton Airlines. His wife's there with him, and I guess that's about all the support I can hope for. Now, I'll go back to the beginning of it and tell you a little bit about our history over there. And strangely enough, it becomes very entangled with New Zealand along the way. Anyway, it started for me back in 1949 when I decided to ease off from farming and learn to fly. And I think this was brought about because we had a brother in the Air Force, and he trained as a fighter pilot, and that was what looked to me like a glamour job in those days, because I was very safely ensconced at college at the time. There wasn't much chance of me getting involved. I was too young. But Bruce was very keen on flying. He got into the training very late in the war, so he never saw any action. But he did get to fly some nice airplanes like P-51s and Kitty Hawks and things like that, and I think he enjoyed it immensely. And then he went back to farming. Well, I got the idea, having one day in Orange during school in about 1944. We were forced to go to church every Sunday, march down there, and we're sitting up in church, and there's about 20 tiger moths arrive over the town. Fancy this on a Sunday morning. And they set to work and they really beat the town up. And the minister there was a fellow that I didn't have much time for. He was putting up a sermon at the time, and I never heard the topic of a sermon change so rapidly. All of a sudden it was these young irresponsibles flying aeroplanes that were the topic of his sermon, and I rather enjoyed that. I managed to get outside to have a look, and boy, were these fellows having some fun. I believe they all got court-martialed and marched out of the Air Force over it, but at that stage of the war, that's probably what they wanted anyway. Anyway, so from learning to fly and starting in 49, I got qualified in around about 51 and managed to become a junior flying instructor with the Newcastle Aero Club. And from there, it progressed for a couple of years doing that sort of work. And then in the early 50s, my brother Max there and myself, we set up a little air taxi operation 165 miles west of Sydney at a place called Kildare. And from that developed in a short space of time the agricultural aviation side. Once again, he was the fellow who initiated that, and I was standing off watching, and I didn't really like too much what I saw, because the guys that were in ag aviation in those days in Australia was in its very early infancy, and most of them were hard drinkers and pretty tough guys. So what's changed? Anyway, we decided that there would be an agricultural aviation division to the company, and that's how it got underway. Max had a Cessna 180 very early in the piece, in which he had a little bit of a mishap, and that forced me into the job, flying an Oster J5. Fortunately, I had a fair bit of time in Osters at that stage, so I managed to survive the learning period. I went through a fairly vicious learning curve, and as you all know, it's the hip pocket nerve that usually generates the most learning. And that happened to us plenty of times. But well, I guess we got there in the end, and by 1956 I got to come over here to Palmerston. Now, isn't that a coincidence? And they had put on here the biggest aviation, agricultural aviation air show that I think had ever been run in the world. And boy, what a success it was. It was an absolute credit to New Zealand, that show. I learnt a heck of a lot from it, and from associated trips around through the courtesy of Miles King and Phil Lightbound. I'm sure he's here somewhere tonight. Here he is, yeah. Hello, Phil. Well, I took home from that trip some valuable knowledge, and immediately went into bulk handling of superphosphate, which I think revolutionised the industry in Australia at that time. And our tonnages just went mad, and the industry saw some very good times indeed. So following on this, a little bit further down the line, Max and I had separated our companies then, and we operated independently of each other, more so rather than in opposition, I guess. But we were both in the same line of business, and I went north and he went south, and we managed to keep out of each other's hair most of the time. But I can tell you that the knowledge I picked up here at that time was a tremendous help. And I also rather enjoyed a major incident that occurred at that show, and I'll bet you there's a lot of people here will remember it. The Civil Aviation Department of New Zealand. They really put their foot in it. I can remember it well. I went to the pilot briefing the day before, you know, to have a listen. And this guy stood up and with much finger waving, he warned every ag pilot there. He said, any of you guys step 1 inch out of line, I'll have your licence. And the only incident of the show was the Civil Aviation DC-3. Well, the good part about that accident was that it didn't hurt anybody physically. And they're kind of nice accidents, I suppose, if you must have one. Right, now, just bear with me for a second here. We'll try and get back on the track because I ran off the rails there a bit. Max over there brought us into ag aviation, as you probably already said. And that was after a little episode that he put on in 1954 when he was flying his Oster J5F across the Blue Mountains from Sydney. And he found a cloud with a rock in it. And I mean, he literally flew straight into a 4,000-foot hill. Bang. But having the good old Hazelden luck, he walked away. And when he got his senses back, he eventually walked back to Sydney. And I can tell you, it's quite a walk. They tell me that by the way he went down the river, it's about 80 miles. And his boots were a bit worn out when he got there. There were about 40 aeroplanes out there looking for him for a week, and things were looking pretty grim. When he turned up as hale and hearty as he is now, he was probably in better shape then. Anyway, I think that was probably the trigger that caused him to get into agricultural aviation, because he figured, well, it can't get any worse than that. So there we were, and that's how we got started. Now, in the years that followed, we'd set up our operation, we're now separate, near Orange, on our brother's property. And it was 11 miles out of town, and we had a pretty good setup there. It was a private airfield where we got no interference from the bureaucracy, very little, and we could come and go as we pleased, day and night, even though night flying was a bit of a legal problem in those days. But we managed, and then, of course, there was a little town on the way in, a place called Lucknow. It used to be an old gold mining town, and it has a pub in it. And at that time, I think I was employing about 22 people. Strangely enough, most of them were New Zealanders. Well, you have to understand that I'm married to one, so that's how it is. And we used to stop at this pub on a Friday evening and have a beer. And it's pretty hard to get past without pulling in. And on this occasion, we stopped and we were enjoying a quiet beer when apparently there was another group from the town who had also taken up residence in the pub that afternoon, and they might have had a few too many beers, and one of our chaps must have said something to a young lady that was with one of these chaps, and the next thing we know, we've got an all-in brawl on our hands in this little pub, and I mean, that's pretty terrible. We were lucky. We had engineers, pilots, loader drivers. You know, we had some good fighters amongst them too. And the only one that was excluded was the office girl. I don't know how she got out of it, but anyway, the fight raged on, and I was mainly trying to separate people and try to stop the bloodshed, and I end up with a couple of good black eyes myself. And there was a sort of a lull in the proceedings, and the publican and his wife were desperately anxious to get everybody out the back lawn because the pub was being wrecked. And they finally did that, and everybody got out the back on the grass, and they kind of formed a bit of a ring around, and the ringleader of the townie group, he sort of challenged us and said, well, I'll fight the best man you got. Well, strangely enough, we had a young chap who was a great friend of Eric Andrews, who's sitting over there, and Beau Roden was his name, and he'd come over to Australia with Eric, and he'd been trained to fight at the Nelson College. He was the amateur boxing champion there in his time. And he was very short in stature, and he wore very heavy glasses, and he looked quite the studious type. You'd never pick him as a fighter. and he stepped forward and he said, yeah, he'll have a go at this fella, you know. And so they shaped up, and the next thing, this guy's on the grass, and he sort of shook himself, and he got up, and he lined up again, and bang, down again. And he didn't bother getting up the next time, and by gosh, we had very little problem at the Lucknow pub after that, I'll tell you. Yeah. Well, I suppose, you know, that was a true story, by the way. That fella over there can verify it, as he was one of the participants. Now, as we went down the years of agricultural aviation, I spent just on 13 years, I think, as an active ag pilot, and then I decided to move into other spheres of aviation, and that was back to the advanced flight training, twin engines, and moving airplanes around the world, if possible. We've been doing a bit of that work for some of your people in New Zealand, who are also here tonight, so that's nice. And we've been flying some beautiful aeroplanes for them. The Super King Air, you probably all know, is probably one of the best ferry aeroplanes a fella could ever wish to get his hands on. And they're just magnificent to fly. Well, you can fly one of those from the United States to Hamilton in a day and a night. and it's recently been done due to the circumstances that caused the aeroplane to be delayed in America. And when it was needed quickly out here, we were able to do that with extra crew and so on. So we really have enjoyed some of that sort of work. It's been magnificent. I mean, we also ferry for Ray Patchett. There's somewhere there. Ray is, and he's from. Anyone that doesn't know it, he's from down in Blenheim and operates the GA200. That's the Australian-built Gippsland Aeronautics airplane. We've ferried, I think, all of those over here so far. And Peter from Gippsland Aeronautics is also here tonight. And I'm just wondering if it might be a good time to get them together and see if they could put a heater in. He spent 8 hours from Lordau Island to New Plymouth flying a GA200 at 10,000 feet. And I'll tell you what, you just about have to get lifted out of it when you reach there. But, she's a great little aeroplane, mate, anyway. Going back to the ferry flying and some of the things that have happened there over the years, it was about 18 months ago, I think, roughly. I had a job taking a 260 horsepower Islander up to America, well over to Florida actually, from Australia. And it wasn't a bad airplane actually, it looked all right anyway. And in fact it was a modified one, the only one in the world that had a long nose, special nose on it for carrying luggage in. Anyway, we ballasted her out pretty good and we had lots of fuel in her. And apart from the fact that, you know, it had no forward speed, it did everything else pretty well. And we took 18 hours and 45, whoops, no, that's wrong, 18 hours and 30 minutes to fly it from Hilo, Hawaii to California. That's to the mainland. It's a long sit, you want it, but I had a co-pilot on this trip, and he was a guy that had never done a long ferry before, and I rather enjoyed his reaction. But I must tell you that we took off from Hilo very early in the morning, about just on dawn, and we headed out across the ocean, and after about 2 or 3 hours we were able to get above 2,000 feet. And we finally, at about 9 hours, we were halfway. And things were looking good. I figured that another couple of hours and we'll be able to fly on one engine. And about that time, in late afternoon, the sun shining low on the horizon, and I look out the right-hand side and I see a bit of smoke come out of the exhaust every so often, you know, a little puff of smoke. Thought, oh, I don't know what that is. And I draw his attention to it, and we're both looking at it then, continuously. And finally, not only the smoke, now we see oil coming out. And it runs back on the fairing of the undercarriage and starts to drip down. And it's very hard to know how much oil there is in that. You wonder if it's just blowing off into the breeze and you can't really tell, or you know, how long would it take to empty the oil out of the engine? You know, it holds 12 quarts or something like that. Well, it took an awful long time because it never happened anyway, I'll tell you now, that's obviously. But it kept us pretty active for a long time thinking about it. There wasn't much we could do other than look at it, but we thought, well, perhaps we better tell San Francisco, I think we were talking to at this stage on the HF. Oh, we said to the guy, we have a possible problem. We've developed an oil leak and we don't know how bad it might be. And he said, oh, well, if it gets any worse, let us know. Well, there you go. Well, we eventually arrived at where we land. We landed at a place called Hollister in California, just inland from the coast, at about 2:45 in the morning. And I'm pleased to say we didn't run out of oil. And what had happened, we discovered the following day. Next morning, when we had an engineer come and help us have a look, the left-hand magneto had come adrift on the right engine. We're just sitting there with the bolts loose, but hadn't fallen out, and we're still working. So you've got to be a bit lucky sometimes, haven't you? So, yeah, those kind of ferry flights have been few and far between. Most of them don't have much drama at all. It was, let me see, yeah, back in 1959, and I was doing an aerial top dressing job on a remote property at the top of the Hunter River in New South Wales, flying a Cessna 180, of course, and those at that time. And You'd be impressed with this job over here. We were taken off at the 2,000 foot level above sea level and climbing to spread at 4,000. And the application rate was half a hundredweight to the acre. Using sulphur fortified super. So there you go. That was a career, not a job, I can tell you. That was there where I met Eric Andrews and Bo Roden, and they subsequently became part of the team. We established at Orange, and they headed up our transport division there, hauling superphosphate for us from the railheads to the airstrip. It was also there that Bo lost his life driving a truck that had a mechanical failure, no fault of his. And that saddened everybody a great deal, because he was a beaut bloke. And we certainly come to realise that accidents occur, and it's just peculiar how fate affects different people. I had a horrendous truck accident myself, driving a truck with an aircraft loader on the back of it, and I smashed the thing to smithereens, rolled it over and over a number of times, and stepped out with 3 busted ribs. And I was flying again next morning, and you know, that's the way it goes. I completely lost control of the vehicle on a steep hill, and I had no right to survive it. So anyway, that's just what happens. Ozzie James came to Australia, as you probably all know. He came to Orange, and Eric Andrews was eventually running the company there for Ozzie that he purchased from us, and I think Ozzie still got contacts in Orange, so that's very good. The one of our very interesting trips, which involved our Civil Aviation Department and me in a bit of a skirmish, it was back in about it must be early 60s. Bill Smith, the brother of Tex from Queenstown. Bill lived in Australia, as you probably mostly know, and he was a designer of ag aeroplanes. He built or redesigned the Cropmaster, which I was involved in. And there's plenty of people know the story about the Cropmaster coming to fielding, but for those who don't, I'll tell you, it was not funny at the time, but looking back on it now, it looks pretty funny. I'd brought the Cropmaster over from Wellington, from Rongotai, where it had been assembled. It was flown in there from Australia, and brought it up here and flew it over to fielding. And the first guy I ran into was Barry Sate. And the doc's there, I knew him well, you see. He'd done some work for me in Australia. He used to come over there for his holidays. Now that's a busman's holiday for you. He'd come over there and fly top dresser for 2 or 3 weeks. Anyway, Barry had a brand new 185. It had just arrived from New Plymouth. I think Phil Lightman probably sent it down to him the day before, and it never had a commercial load in it. And he said, "Gee, I'd like to give that aeroplane a try of yours against this 185. He said, "Let's put the same load in each of them and we'll take off side by side and see. We brake as quick as we can, come back and sew." And then, yeah, so we did all that, and we came back across the field. I think we're pretty neck and neck, and then we got rid of the load, and then a dogfight developed over the airfield. We had a bit of a skirmish for a while, and I think he won, and then I peeled off and landed on the grass there. The field looks kind of different now. It must have been shortened up a bit from what it was then. And I just dropped in quietly over the fence and pulled up as quick as I could, and pretty pleased with myself because I hadn't used much of the field. Barry comes in and easily, pulls up alongside and he jumps out and got his engine running. He says, comes over, and I was sitting in the airplane. He says, "Oh, get out of that thing and let me have a fly of it." So I was pleased. Yeah, I said, "Yeah, by all means." And I got up in the wing. He's in the pilot seat now, and I'm just running him around the gadgetry in the cockpit. And next thing I hear a change in engine tone. I look around. It's 185. It's just starting to move away. Well, I tried very hard for him. I ran along the top of the wing and kept going. Tried my best to reach it. I got to the door. I even got to the step, but I could not get the door open and stay on the step at the same time. There was a problem there with, you know what it is, the door's in the way. So I just couldn't do it, and finally I had to let go. Got clouded with a tailplane, and off she went. Well, that aeroplane put on the best turn that you've ever seen in your life. It went 100 yards or so, got up to speed nicely. Apparently they'd taken off the vernier throttle coupling and just turned it into a push-pull throttle. And that really was the basis of the problem, because the spring was still there and she'd pulled her open. And the further she went, the more power she got. and my God, what a turnout. It ground looped. It put the leg right under the fuselage. It wingtipped down on the ground, and it's like an old dog. It just got up and shook itself, and away it went again. And it did this about 3 times. And I tell you what, there was a big audience of top-dressing guys along, and a row of aeroplanes in front of the hangars there, and it was going straight at them. And you never saw people disperse so rapidly in your life. And then it ground looped, and then it set off at another angle, and finally it set off in the clear and flew. Actually, it got airborne. It was quite clearly airborne for probably 100 yards. But unfortunately, she just didn't have enough height to clear the fence. Otherwise, I'm sure the story would have extended a lot further. It hit the fence. It tipped it upside down. It ended up on its back on the railway line there, near Furling. And my goodness, there was a freight train about 100 yards coming down. I tell you what, there's steam going everywhere, and he pulls up. And, you know, it was just a remarkable event. I don't think anybody was amused back at New Plymouth, because it would have been quite a loss at that time. But it was an accident, and Barry didn't mean it to happen, that's for sure. But, you know, it's just one of those things that goes on. Another interesting little exercise, I think I'm telling Ozzy about this one earlier, because we started talking about a fellow we knew in Western Australia who's now passed on, but Billy Bolden, he got me to fly a crop master from Sydney to Perth, and it was all organised around a media thing in Perth. When the aeroplane got there, the television was going to be there, and you know, it was nice publicity for Bill's new aeroplane. And I went to Ceduna. I started out from, I believe, that morning, and took off from Ceduna in South Australia. I had very limited range in the crop master, you know, they don't go very far on a tank full. But I carried some cans in a hopper, and the idea was that when I got up the road a bit, there's plenty of places to land, you know, clay pans everywhere, she'll be right. We'll just pop down, put fuel in, and then continue on to forest. Well, it all turned very sour, because when I went down to look for clay pan, I got close to the ground. I said, God, you know, there's nothing but rocks everywhere. These little sharp, pointy rocks. It's what they call the gibber country over there in the desert. And I wasn't awake up to this. And, that was a nasty situation. I think, well, gee, what do I do now? I have to make a command decision here pretty quick. Do I go back and try and get back into good country, or will I keep going up to the railway line? So I elected to go to the railway line, and thought, oh, I'll be bound to find a place up there to land on. And sure enough, I get up there, and you know it, the timber's right up to the track. There's no, I can't find a place to land, so I keep travelling towards forest, and in the end I'm getting desperately short of fuel. I know that if this goes on for another 5 minutes, then the decision's going to be taken out of my hands. So I saw a little clearing at 150 yards long, and thought it'll have to do, and there's 2 wheel tracks there. So we bring the crop master in, and she's pretty light at this stage, not much gas in it, and pop her on the road, and I'm going great. I thought I had it made, and then bang, I blow the starboard main wheel tyre. And this is not a very nice situation out in the blooming desert there, the Nullarbor. At least I'm on the railway line, so I won't perish. But I'll have to, I don't know what to do. I'll start off, I'll put the fuel in anyway. I'll be progressive in attitude about this. So I get the cans out and put the fuel in and put it back in the hopper, and I no sooner finished, I suppose within 3 or 4 minutes, and I hear a noise coming down the railway line. It's one of those little machines that the guys travel around in the gangers, you know, that fix the lines. And these 2 big burly fellas get off, come over, and they say, "Geez, mate, what are you doing here?" I said, well, so I had to tell them, you know, what happened, and oh yeah, they understood that. And they said, "Well, what are you going to do now?" I said, "Well, I'd like to take off if possible." He said, "What, with a flat tyre?" I said, "Yeah, well," I said, "this aeroplane's got a lot of power." It was a 250 horsepower, Lycoming powered aeroplane. Because I think if we could get it back there and put the tail in the bushes with the breezes blowing, I'll take off that way, and I reckon she'll make it. And he said, "Well, maybe we could carry the wing for you for a bit to give you a start." I said, "Yeah, well, that's good." So that's what we did, and we got it into position, and I got behind the wheel again, and away we went. And I remember seeing these 2 rolling in the dust as we dispersed down this track, and I must tell you that they'd taken all the rocks out for me with their crowbars and things too before we did this, and it was very helpful as we got off without doing any more damage, but we still had a blown right-hand tyre. So I whip up to, this is getting a bit long, this story. I whip up to Forest and land there, and just land outside the hangar because it's a big clay pan, it's all nice and clear, and there was no problem to land when you could manoeuvre like that. Get the weight on the good tyre and come to a stop, get some fuel, file a flight plan, and I'm off, and didn't want to talk to anybody really. And I had to land again to put fuel in at I think it's someplace between there and Kalgoorlie. I forget the name of it now, Rowan or something like that. And no problem again. I get to Kalgoorlie. Now this is a bit more of a problem because it's a bit civilised there. We got a civil aviation department and various other things. So the first thing I get is a message when I got there that the superintendent from Perth has advised me that I should not proceed with this aeroplane unless it's fully serviceable. So we hunted around, and the only thing we could find was a tube that was about 3 sizes too big and no tyres available anywhere for a crop master. So we put a sleeve in, patched it up as best we could, stuffed the tube in, pumped her up, and she stood up and looked pretty good. So off I went. And to cut a long story short, I eventually get into Perth, and I land there, and sure enough, there's these 2 bureaucratic-looking gentlemen come straight up, approach the aeroplane, and You wouldn't want to believe it, you know, if you could park the aeroplane so that the split in the tyre was at the top. Well, it didn't have all that pressure bearing down on it, it would look a lot better. But mine had to be right at the bottom. And I couldn't see it from the cockpit, naturally, so I just had to take a chance on it. So when they were coming towards the aeroplane, I just shoved the aeroplane a little bit to get the split up. And when they came, they said, looked around, you know, I mean, it was perfectly obvious. He could see the tyre had a bad cut in it. But he said, we've been sent to inspect this thing, and he said, it looks okay to us. Your tyres are still inflated. I said, yep, nothing wrong here. And that got us out of what was a very difficult situation. And Billy Bolden got his aeroplane on schedule. Well, yes, well, enough stories. Anyway, it's been great to come and have a talk with you. I hope it hasn't bored you, but we'll certainly look forward to answering any questions if anybody wanted to ask anything about the past while we're here. Maybe we can answer them. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Hazelton. Righto, coming up very shortly, some very fine music for you to dance to with the Hawke's Bay Jazz Club Big Band.
I need Sue with me.
Okay, we got here Russell. How you going, Russell?
Yeah, well as could be expected after 50 years.
That's good. And when did you start flying at all? When did you start flying first time?
I don't remember too much now. You know, it's a long time ago, back in the Gore and Ian Ritchie days, and Bill Hewitt.
All right. And what type of aircraft are you flying?
I started off with Tiger Moths.
Tiger Moths, and you progressed from there onto other aircraft?
Yeah, we had a couple of years on Tigers, and then graduated up to Piper Cub, Fletcher 180.
And any all straight flying? No little mishaps at all anywhere on the line? Or everything all pretty safe and nice and quiet?
Yeah, everything's pretty basic, except for the time the cat scared the shit out of me.
The time the what? The cat?
The cat, yeah.
Okay, what happened there?
We got an old hanger cat, I think. Most of the hangars in New Zealand have got a hanger cat. This thing used to have pups, kittens, 3 or 4 times a year, and one of them must have got locked inside the locker in the back of the Tiger Moth. I was going out to a job there one day, and right about 3,000 feet up, and just imagining how I could have shortened the Battle of Britain. Next thing, I felt something on the side of my face. I put my hand up and there was blood on it. I thought, what the hell's that? And I turned around and rubbed it again, and more blood. A bloody kitten walked out round the side of my shoulder, just clinging on. You know? So
The cat had kittens on the aircraft.
yeah, I just about had them too.
And what are you up to now anyway?
What am I? What?
What are you up to now at the moment?
Still flying.
Still flying? Who
Yep.
for?
Flying for a company called Glacier Southern Lakes Helicopters.
Oh, sorry, helicopters, okay. And all good flying down there?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, what sort of work you do down there in the helicopters?
Probably 90% tourist work now.
Tourist trade?
Yeah.
Oh, well, if you were down that way, might pop in and get a bit of a cheap flight. What do you reckon?
If you come down there, I'll give you a 50% cut.
You're on, you're on. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed the weekend, and we'll catch up again.
Been a beautiful weekend.
Maybe another 5 years' time for the next one.
All we got to do is con bloody Mangum into doing another one.
Yeah, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm sure we will do.
Yeah.
All right, thank you a lot, Russell. Catch you
Okay.
later on. See ya.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, okay, Peter. Okay. Are we going? Here we go. Okay, here we got Peter Anderson. Where'd you start flying, Peter? Whereabouts?
Fielding Airport, 1960.
1960. And what sort of aircraft are you flying there?
Cessna 180 and a Tiger Moth sprayer.
Cessna 180 and a Tiger Moth sprayer. Yeah, okay. And which one do you like flying the most? Seems to be the aircraft we want to fly, eh?
Yeah, no, beautiful little machine, yeah.
What was it about it that made you like it so much?
Well, you could take it down to the beach when you weren't working and big towie rows.
Oh, yeah, right. I heard Jim Cronin talking about a trip to the beach one day and the 180 and you got a big prop out of it. You didn't have any trouble out at all, did you?
No, I didn't have no big props.
That's good. And what happened now then? You still flying or you sort of...
No, I did 34 years and then got diabetes, so...
34 years of flying?
Yeah.
And how many hours were you doing? Looking around the room tonight, I say we've been nearly close to half a million hours flying this room tonight.
Yeah, I suppose that's...
Pretty well done.
Yeah, pretty well done.
Pete, and good evening and the weekend and, you know,
Very
see you
good.
another 5 years' time perhaps.
Yeah, probably will, thanks.
Okay, mate, catch you later.
That would be all right.
Probably will.
Yeah, how are you? All right? G'day, Mario. Mario, Guy, how are you going? All right, Frank? Okay, good.
We've just met the first time for 42 years.
It's the first time you met for 42 years.
That's right.
Okay, starting with you, Guy, when did you start your flying career? Whereabouts?
I started in the Waikato 1950,
1950, flying what sort of aircraft?
Tiger Moths.
Tiger Moths.
Yeah.
And you progressed after a few years from Tiger Moths at all?
Yes, to Fletcher's.
The Fletchers?
Yes.
That's good. Still in the same area or did you fly over the country at all?
Oh, yeah, we operated all around the Waikato and around South Auckland and
That's good.
Rotorua and
Oh, excellent. How many hours do you reckon you would have cracked up over the years?
oh, I've got about 8,000.
How many?
8,000.
8,000
Yes.
hours.
That's not very many.
Oh, that's all right. That's some enjoyable hours though, eh?
Oh, well,
Okay?
yes.
Right.
It's more important. We used to do up to 100 landings and takeoffs in a day.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
That is the difference. It's
Yes,
not
yes,
the
yes.
number of hours.
Yes.
It's the number of landings and takeoffs.
And where did you start, Frank? When did you start flying?
Well, I started flying in England, but then I started aerial top dressing in fielding.
Right.
And then I was the first to get a license for aerial spraying. I did about 4,000 hours with Tigers spraying.
Right, whereabouts in New Zealand?
Based in fielding at Tainui.
Okay, right, yes.
And then I went into tourist flying after that.
Okay.
But I did 15 years of agricultural flying.
Okay, and you said when we got here that they just met this fella after how many years?
Well, I gave it away, and I just haven't seen a lot of. I haven't seen a lot of these guys. I can't even recognise them. You know, I did recognise Guy, but you know.
Yeah. So you two work together? Did you work
No,
together?
we never worked together.
No.
But we weren't in opposition because
Right.
it was tooth and claw when you were in opposition, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, sounds good.
Mind you, I also ran a company called Aviation Sales and Service, and I sold Guy quite a lot of spares at various times.
Yeah, you did. Oh, yes.
And did you enjoy the weekend, this weekend?
Well,
See a few faces and...
it doesn't happen often, and I'm particularly lucky to be here this time because the last one, the 40-year one,
Right.
when they thought that was going to be the last, I ended up in hospital with a
Yes.
very serious operation.
Yeah.
To be here today is a
Yes,
bonus.
great, eh?
Yeah, just so.
That's good. Well, thank you, people, Frank and Guy, and I hope we'll see you in the 55th
Yeah, we'll
anniversary. Same place, same channel.
If we've got this far, we're going to get the rest.
That's great stuff. All right, catch you later. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Here is another flyer from way back. So when did you start flying? When?
Started top dressing in 59.
59. And what sort of aircraft were you flying in then?
The Piper Cup.
Piper Cup. Everyone started off in their Piper Cup, didn't they?
You had to.
And did you go on to any other aircraft after that, or
Yeah, got to spray on a Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moth? Okay, a bit of a step up, isn't it?
No cabin heat.
No cabin heat. Okay. And what sort of areas? Whereabouts were you flying?
We're based out of Wanganui, and then I was lucky enough to train on helicopters with
Okay, right.
Mike Alexander.
Yes. Okay. And you fly the Hillers and that sort of thing?
Yep.
Hillers, and what anything else apart from the Hillers?
Mainly Hillers in New Zealand, and then went on to join the Hiller factory in the United States.
Okay, yeah. And how do you like flying in New Zealand? Good? Excellent, eh?
It's good, yeah.
How
We
many
had a lot
hours-
of fun.
How many hours do you reckon would have cranked up?
Or, I don't know, about 15,000 on helicopters.
15,000. It's a lot of hours, isn't it?
Yeah, I know.
And which
There's a hell of a lot more around than me, though.
Yeah. But still, it's all part of the scene, isn't it? Okay.
Oh yeah.
And, all right. We enjoyed the weekend so far.
Yeah, we do it all again.
That's good. Okay. Yeah. All right, then we'll probably see you again another 5 years at the 55th.
Thanks, Barry.
Very good. Okay, catch you later. See you. Thanks a lot. Saw you here again at the 50th anniversary. When did you start flying, Fred? When?
1950.
1950, and whereabouts?
Oh, that was in the Thames area. Started off with one Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moth, yeah.
One driver, one loader, and that was it.
And what sort of stuff were you spraying in those days?
Just superphosphate in particular.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any little stories or anecdotes on your Tigers that you can sort of think of? So, no bent props at all?
Oh, there's quite a lot of stories, really, but I must not wise to tell them to you, really, I suppose. But wool prices were very good in those days, and the business grew like Topsy. And
yeah.
then in 1972, we amalgamated with Field Air.
Okay, yeah.
I was there for 10 years as their managing director until I retired.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay.
Have been that way for the last 15 years, and happy as one thing.
Okay, well, it's very good, and I hope you enjoyed the weekend so far, and we might see you here another 5 years at the 55th anniversary.
I'll be here.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah.
Great function. Great
All right,
function.
then. Thank you a lot. Catch you later.
Okay.
See ya. John McDonald here, and when did you start flying in your career, John?
49.
49. Okay, and what sort of aircraft?
Tiger Moths.
Tiger Moths, okay. And sort of what sort of areas around Fielding here, or were you all over the country?
North Auckland.
All over?
And the Wairarapa.
Oh, and the Wairarapa as well. Okay, didn't do any stuff in the Tarroos at all?
Oh yeah, down there.
Okay, right.
Cessna 180s.
Okay, right. Yeah, doing some drops for the forestry or any of that at all on the Tarroos?
Not really.
Just super.
Just looked after them for prison.
Oh, it's good stuff. And what are you doing now yourself? Still connected with aviation in any way, or?
Yes, but I'm in Australia.
Okay, right. Yes.
We have the franchise for Air Tractor.
Okay, right.
And we've sold presently about 145.
Okay, yeah. So you can sit back and relax a little bit now, I suppose, can you?
More or less, yes. It's about bye-bye time.
Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed the weekend and see a few comrades and that.
It's
and
been wonderful.
Tell a few lies and it's been a bit more super. Okay, John, thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
Everybody works with you.
John, it's John, isn't it?
Say?
John.
Yes.
John, okay. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
What do you want to know?
we got John and Alec here, the two, John Wellington and Alec Foster. Okay, starting with you, John, first. Whereabouts did you start flying?
I started flying in Tikawiti. Well, that's where my aerial top dressing started.
Right.
But a couple of years before that, I started with Aussie James in September 1950.
1950?
1950. I worked for Oz for 3 months. I didn't like the airstrips that he made. The particular person made them. He was a wing commander and a hell of a good pilot. And he just told me in no uncertain terms, I can fly those airstrips, and if you can't, bad luck. Now, there's a sequel to this, because I went to Tikawiti with a Tiger Moth and an old Chev truck and a 44-gallon drum with a butterfly in the bottom and a sugar bag. And that's how we started aerial top dressing out of Tikawiti, 1952.
What sort of aircraft were you flying out of then? What sort of aircraft?
What did we...
What sort of aircraft were you flying?
Well, we were flying Tiger Moths at the start. We worked up to 3. Then we bought Cessna aircraft, but we wanted something bigger. So we started to build an air truck.
Okay, right.
Now that was a big thing. I bought 89 Harvards, and we took every bit out of the Harvard that we could, and we built this air truck. 48-foot wingspan, 600 horses, carried 1.5 tons. But in the meantime, we had 3 or 4 Cessnas. Alec came and joined us, and he flew with us, and this guy did how will I put it? You remember that landing?
I remember very well.
And Alex, where else did you start flying? When? When did you start flying?
Well, initially, the first flying training was with the Wellington Aero Club in 1946.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. So you had a bit of a history and background too, flying, haven't you?
Go back to there, yeah.
Okay, when did you actually start sort of top dressing?
In 31st of December 1950.
You've got that date pretty well sussed in your mind, haven't you?
Yep. I actually started work on the 31st.
Okay, and the same thing again, old Tiger Moths?
I did about 5 years on them.
5 years, right?
About 2,500 hours, believe it or not.
Okay. And did you partner up with this young fella here, did you?
No, he advertised for a pilot and I applied for it.
Right.
Fly me down, I got the job.
Okay, right, yeah. And what parts of the country did you fly in New Zealand? All over or just?
Oh, help. I've been down in Wairarapa.
Wairarapa, yeah.
East Coast, Gisborne East Coast.
Okay.
Wanganui, King Country, North Auckland.
Excellent. So you
London to South Island.
Oh, okay, that's good. So
I don't like flying over water, so I don't go south.
No, you haven't done that in North yet. Okay, we're all sign off now. We're going to get the cutting of the cake and we'll see you later on. Okay, thanks guys. You're welcome.
People in the industry who've been around a while, who have come a long way to be with us tonight, to come forward and help with the cutting of the cake. Who's first, Noel? Anybody from 1949? Anybody been in the industry since 1949? Aussie James is one. Come forward, guys. Anyone who's been here since in the industry in 1949? Okay. Who's next, Noel? Just come and stand up the front here. Michael Brazier, son of the man who started all of this, I understand. Michael, where are you? Give us a wave. Here he is. He's coming forward. Who's next here? No? The oldest pilot here, I think it's George Hitterhill. I hope I'm right. Oh, okay. George, where are you? Where is he? Is he coming forward? Anyway, who's next up? Now, those who have travelled the greatest distance to be here.
Len Bryant and Alan Geddes from Canada.
Len Bryant and Alan Geddes from Canada. Where are you guys? Come forward, please. Len Bryant, Alan Geddes from Canada. Come a long, long way to be a part of this. Right, Phil and Noel Kinvik from Hungary. Come forward, please. And with some apologies, we'll have to invite an Australian up here as well, I feel. Where is he? Jim. Give him the knife. No? This is our crowd, ladies and gentlemen. They represent those who have come the furthest. They represent those who have been here the longest. We'll ask them to come forward and collectively take that knife and put a lovely great big cut in the 50th birthday cake. Guys, if you'd like to gather around the cake, put your hand on the knife and make the first cut. On behalf of everybody here, your golden anniversary, 50 years in the business. All right, guys, thank you very much for doing that. And happy birthday, y'all. And we'll be circulating that cake a little bit later on, obviously. We'll get the staff to do a little more cutting on it, and then we'll make sure you get a slice. Now, Noel, next up.
It's me a great pleasure to do this, and an honour to do this tonight. But I got a little bit of quiet because it actually is a special thing. But before we start, I think actually it was just something that Jim was talking about this brawl in a pub, and brought to mind an episode that I heard about years ago. Now there is one person here that will probably tell me whether it's true or not, and that's actually John McDowell.
Yeah.
Where is he? Anyway, it reminds me of a pilot that I used to work with, a chap by the name of Bill Peterson. Now Bill Peterson and Chas Chambers were working at Tiger Moths at a place called Onifero, just across the river from Turkau, across the Waikato River. They finished the job on a Saturday afternoon, and in those days, of course, the pubs closed at 6 o'clock. So what did Bill and Chas do? They went in and dropped the tiger moths into the paddock behind the Turkau pub. The loader driver came in with the loader. 6 o'clock, they were told to go, close the pub. Chas came out and he looked at the driver and he says, "You're too pissed to drive." He said, "You take the tiger." So Bill and the driver took the tigers back to Mangere, no problem at all. Chas went to the loader, got down the road and got a ticket for being drunk and charged. Anyway, to get on with the business in hand, okay, tonight is our 50th anniversary of the industry. There are quite a few people here that have probably been in that sort of close to that. I haven't quite made that yet. I've only been 39 years. But the New Zealand Agricultural Aviation Association, or the NZAAA as we're normally known, thought it was a good opportunity to sort of honour somebody who's actually spent a long time in the industry. Now this was open, as I think it had on the thing there, pilots, drivers, office staff, ops managers, wives, playmates, or whatever. So we left the wives and sorry about the wives, I mean, we forgot about that, and the playmates. But quite often, it's either pilots that are normally honoured on certain things. But we decided that it's about time we looked at somebody else. Now, without a loader driver, what do we do? Absolutely nothing. So we looked around the industry and we came up with one person. Now, this person, no, actually, I've known him personally since 1962. He's a great chap, very dedicated to his job. He's actually worked for 4 companies in his whole period of time, and that wasn't by choice. That was because either the company was bought out or changes, in the thing. Probably. Well, actually, I don't know how I'm going to get away with this, but I'll just have to keep on going. The avenue he started in Dannyburg for airspread on the 9th of January 1952. He then moved, I think after a couple of years, so actually this is a thing I only found out last night. He went to Mount Maunganui and he still worked for airspread until 1962. Airspread was taken over by James Aviation. So he carried on with James Aviation until June 1984. At that time, because James had changed things and sold the units to the pilots. So then he worked for Williams Aerial Work until August 1988. From then on, of course, as quite a few are aware, Super Air was formed. And that person is still working, even though, be it at this time, perhaps part-time, for Super Air. In those 47 years, actually I don't know why he didn't start in 49, that would have made it to 50, wouldn't it? In those 47 years, he's actually probably loaded for several pilots. Basically, and I'm not just too sure quite on the years, but you could probably say 29 for one and 15 for the other. He's actually only ever loaded for two pilots, really. One was Dave Cohu, the other was Derek Williams. And Derek is here tonight. Most of you now know who it is. And the person concerned will know who it is. And I would like to call now on Alan Rose and his wife Huia to come forward. Yeah. Here they come. I could probably say... No, not a problem. Actually, there's probably quite a few things I could actually say about Alan, but I'm not too sure whether I should do. There is one thing about it, he actually does play a mean game of golf, I know that. And if it wasn't for Alan, I probably wouldn't be playing golf myself, but he was the one that, back in the early 60s with Alan and Dave Cohu and Rod and what have you, actually got me into the game. But in those 47 years, I think Alan, he probably only had one little bit of a period off. Now, I don't know whether I should actually say, but have I got your blessing? Alan had a little bit of a health problem at one stage. We won't say quite when it was, which actually, unfortunately, did affect his speech. He was so very good when he came back to work that because of the person in the office I know at Mount Maunganui, Percy Brake and everybody else involved, that anything that went over the RT had to actually be done with a yes or no answer. There were so many clicks for yes, so many clicks for no. But actually Alan was quite good. He actually could say one word. It actually was a four-letter word that actually started with F. But over the years, you know, things have improved, his speech has improved, and actually Alan has just carried on. Alan, on behalf of the NZAAA, I would like to present to you this plaque, and I'll actually read what's on it for everybody concerned. It says the NZAAA, New Zealand Agricultural Aviation Association, award to Alan Rose an appreciation of 47 continuous years service to agricultural aviation in the Bay of Plenty area. Presented at the Ag Aviation Golden Anniversary, Palmerston North, May 1999. It's actually been signed by two people. It's been signed by John Sinclair, the President of the NZAAA, and by myself as Chairman of the Northern Branch. Alan, it gives me great pleasure to present to you this plaque.
Excellent. Hey, Rosie!
And to her here, I think actually for putting up with him for all those years. Well done, and to both of you, our congratulations.
Can you hear me? I'll make it short. Just like to thank you, David, very, very much for this occasion. It's been absolutely marvellous. We've had a wonderful time, and I'm very pleased for Alan, all the years he's worked. Thank you all very much. It's been lovely.
Now, just, there is another thing actually, what I've actually asked them both to stay here because there is something else and I'll hand you over now to Noel.
If you can just bear with us a little while. Alan, you worked with two guys here, didn't you? I think the band leader, Ray Ball.
Yeah.
And you know a reprobate called Dick Jones, who is one of the organising committee here. Could those two guys come forward, please? We finally got Jack chained to a chair. Now, on behalf of the organising committee of the Golden Age anniversary, I'll give this to Dick. We'd like to steal a bit of thunder and give you one too. A job well done. And Courier, you're the pittance of what they tell us. Behind every good man there's a woman. Now, they never tell you what the hell she's doing back there, but in this case, we know, and I think my wife Val would like to just bring forward and recognise what you've done for Alan in the past years. Congratulations, Alan. You quite happy? It's a pity you're paid to come, isn't it?
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much, but I must say, all of us wouldn't be here tonight if it hadn't been for our chairman, I'll give him a build-up of directors, Noel Mangan and his wife Val. I think Noel has travelled north, right up to the North Island, right to the south. And I think the last time we finished the last anniversary started the second day. And he's done that so well and got sponsors. None of us would have been here tonight if it hadn't been for Noel Mangan and his wife Val. Thanks everybody.
That's the last time you ever get a microphone. I'd like to thank the sponsors mainly first. We've had a terrific amount of response from the sponsors. I hope they feel that they've got value for their money. It's an expensive outfit to run this. I'm hoping that you can top the bill that you did last year, and with last year, I said last 5 years, you hit 23,000 in booze on that night. You were drinking it at $4,200 an hour. Yes! For you hourly guys. But thank you for coming, and above all, thank you for opening your checkbooks, and thank you very much. Now, Dick did mention there's Barry Cook over there. He's sitting over there in the corner. Has he just gone out? Anyway, there's Lil, there's Pat and Dick, and especially my wife. Without this, you give me the accolades, but it's shared. It is really shared between the lot, and I appreciate that you've come. That's about all I can say. I think there's enough bullshit for one night.
Thank you very much, Noel. Congratulations. And just before we get back to the music, I do have to tell you there's been a lot of talk tonight about the part that the wives...
Had a shite. Say it right, say it right. George had a shite.
Okay, hi, here we got George this time. George here at the 50th anniversary of VAC Pilots. When did you start flying your career?
About 1953 I started flying, and I started professionally in 1957.
1957, and when 1953, what sort of aircraft did you start flying in?
Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moth.
And whereabouts?
When I started top dressing in 57, we flew Tiger Moth in Mossburn for Hewitt Aviation.
Okay, all right, and you moved up to other aircraft?
Yes, we went into Osters.
Osters, yep.
And from there into, PA-18As,
right.
Pawnees, and then up the line until we got to the big machinery like series.
Okay, right, yeah. And you're still in the aviation now?
Yes, still flying
today,
flying. Yes.
Still flying. What aircraft are you flying at the moment?
A Fletcher.
Fletchers, okay. And who for?
Rural Air Services.
Rural Air Services, okay.
And fielding.
Based in fielding?
Fielding, yeah.
And what parts of the country have you flown in? All over?
Well, I started in Southland, then went to Timaru.
Right.
From Timaru to Amberley to, did a time in Nelson. From Nelson to Martinborough.
Right, okay.
And in the Wairarapa.
Right.
And from the Wairarapa to Tai-Happy.
Right.
And from Tai-Happy to Palmerston, base here with Aerial Farming New Zealand Limited. And that was in 1960. So it was all done in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
And from then on I stayed here. I've been here ever since.
Oh, that's good, yeah. So you sort of worked your way up from the South Island, bottom end almost, and right through. Flying all sorts of terrain and different sort of countries,
that's
mountains and valleys and flats and plains and all sorts of stuff.
Well, down south it is very rough terrain.
Right.
Very mountainous.
Right, yep.
Difficult terrain.
Okay.
But here it is quite easy.
And you have a good career, good straight flying career, no bent props or?
Well, we had our little mishaps and whoopsies.
Whoopsies. Any good ones you can sort of think of?
No, not really. Most of them were due to engine failures.
Right, yeah.
And the rest of them, one I did was a slight mistake. I was flying a series, which is a big aircraft, and then the thing had to go in for maintenance, and I took a Pawnee, which is the smallest machine. The driver sits behind the engine in a little cubicle part there, and we flew to the airstrip, and unfortunately I encountered a sink, and I had carburetor heat on because it was a very frosty morning,
Right.
and the engine wouldn't respond when I opened it up, and she hit the end of the airstrip, took the undercard off, and we slid up and did a magnificent belly landing.
Oh, very nice.
And I was sitting there switching everything off in a hurry, and I was yelling out to the driver, "Get out!" You know, and he was standing outside yelling at me.
To get out.
What about you? He said, I've got out long ago.
Yeah.
I said, what's the hurry? He said there was a bit of smoke coming out the front.
Oh, well, at least you survived all that sort of things.
Yes,
Anyway, that's the main thing,
and that driver, him and I worked together for 27 years.
27 years?
27 years.
Amazing stuff, eh?
That was.
And how many hours do you reckon you would have clocked up?
About 20,000.
20,000 hours?
20,000, yeah.
God, I was having a look around at the hall tonight. I reckon there'd be close to 500,000 hours flying. All you guys there.
There'd be some blokes there with a lot more hours than me.
Amazing stuff,
It
eh?
depends what type of work and what type of aeroplanes they fly. In the Manitoba 2 here, you cannot do that many hours.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know, and some of these fellas in the Waikato and things, they do 1,200 hours a year, no trouble at all.
So why is that? Is it because different farming structure?
Different area.
Different area,
You know,
right.
more fertilizer goes on. In the Waikato, for instance, it goes on twice a year.
Right, okay.
On the dairy farms.
Yes.
So they do a lot more work.
Right, and a bit more money too is up there, I suppose, perhaps.
And then I was flying a large aircraft like a series which carried a ton in the days when almost all aircraft couldn't carry much more than half a ton.
Right, okay, yeah.
Initially.
Right. Yeah,
so I was doing far less hours than people that flew the smaller machines.
Okay, still getting the same number of tonnage on.
Yeah, that's right. More usually, more.
Yeah. All right, George, I hope you've enjoyed the weekend, and I'll see you probably again at the 5 years' time, at the 55th.
Wow. Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. Okay, George, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much for having us.
Very good.
Okay.
See ya.
Bye.
Obviously, we're going. Well, Noel, how's it been this weekend?
Well, you'd have to say fabulous, wouldn't you?
Yeah, okay, and the organising go okay?
Yeah. What I'd say, it was a success with the word go, because you walked to the door, it was happy.
Right. And no hiccups or any problems?
No problems.
Everybody seemed to enjoy themselves tonight?
Well, they tell me they have.
And when did you start your flying career?
Oh, now let's not go into that. Not tonight.
About what, late 40s, early 50s?
I learned to fly about 1951.
51, what's the aircraft?
Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moths. Everyone says Tiger Moths, eh?
Yeah, Tiger Moth.
And you still flew from Tiger Moths onto other aircraft?
From Tigers right through Osters and Proctors. Just about every light aircraft there was.
That sounds good. And what your lovely wife here, Val, let's see what sort of input she's got. And how have you enjoyed the weekend so far?
Very much.
Have you been the backbone behind the man here?
Very much so.
And all going well?
Yes.
That's good. Oh, well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the night, and we'll catch up to you guys in 5 years' time at the...
We're going to do the
100. Oh, you're going to do the 100. Okay. Oh, we'll see you at the 100.
All promise to come.
All promise to come. Okay. Oh, well, I'll bring my stick as well. Okay, guys, I'll catch you later on. See you, Val.
Thank you. Dick Jones and Pat.
Dick Jones and Pat. Where's Pat? Okay. Oh, we're going. Oh, well, Dick, here we go then. This is the last night of the 50th reunion. How do you think of it so far? What do you think of it?
Well, firstly, I can say it's really marvellous. There's only about 4 of us trying to organise it for the last 5 years.
Right.
The biggest trouble we had was, well, not trouble, but is trying to get sponsors, because we thought we'd all have to pay out money out of our own pockets being on the committee, but now, a fortnight ago, we found that we're $2 in the black, which was marvellous.
Oh, that's good. And when did you start your flying career? Do you have any flying career? When did you start flying?
No, I didn't start flying. I was a bonehead. And I thought it was about 1949, but I found out I was with Alan Rose and my other mate was about 50.
Right.
In Danavik with airspread.
Okay, right, yes.
But I found out later on that I went flying with Ken Parrish. Those days you had a student licence, but after you got your student licence you had to get a medical. I went up to the optician and found out that I only had sight in one eye. During my overseas exploits, I peeked through my fingers to get overseas, which was quite hilarious. Every time I went to get my medical, the doctor said, "How'd you get overseas?" I said, "I peeked through my fingers."
Good stuff. Oh, you're a good liar, Dick, anyway.
It goes down well.
Yeah, and sorry, what about you, Pat? Have you enjoyed?
Pat.
Yeah.
Been with me for 50 years. We had our wedding anniversary.
Right.
Last month, we only get 20 years for murder.
And what do you think of that sort of line there, Pat?
I'm used to it. I've heard it all before.
Yeah, I bet you've heard probably worse too, I suppose.
And I'd like to say that in the early days of top dressing, I used to sew the windsocks.
Oh, good stuff, yeah. We had to have the windsocks.
Calico.
Out of what colour?
Unbleached calico.
Unbleached calico. Oh, okay. And how long did it take you to do a windsock?
Oh, I suppose a couple of hours.
Keep the ladies at home sort of happy and...
Kitchen.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Well, it's good to have a river backbone in the industry anyway. There's always something, eh? And we'll see you another 5 years' time at the 55th.
Affirmative.
Affirmative. All right, guys, good one. Catch you later. Okay. You right there, dear? Must be. Okay, we've got John and Tony here, both from Australia, is that correct?
No, I'm from Rotorua, New Zealand.
Oh, okay, we'll come back to you later on. We'll have a talk with Tony here. We'll get back to you. You're from Australia, aren't you, Tony?
I am now. I used to be here.
Okay, when did you start your flying career?
About 1961, I guess.
Okay, whereabouts?
In Palmerston North.
Palmerston North, okay. Sort of fixed wing flying or
Oh, yes.
Okay, and what sort of aircraft did you start flying in?
Champion.
In the which?
Champion.
Champion.
Mm.
Okay, and it's always in the Manitou here?
Oh, no, I came here to get my licences and went flying somewhere else, you know.
Oh, okay, that's a bit cunning, isn't it? Okay, so you're flying now in Australia?
Yes.
And whereabouts in Australia you're flying?
Kingaroy, Queensland.
Okay, you're doing banana spraying and stuff like that over there?
Peanuts, man.
Peanuts?
Peanuts and beans.
Peanuts and beans spraying?
Yeah, we spray all your baked beans.
Okay, for Waddies and stuff,
Yeah.
For whoever, yeah, okay, yeah.
Not exactly for Waddies. They rang me up one day, the bean growers, and said, "Do you know Jim Waddy? He put an order in for some baked beans." And I said, "Well, no, I don't know him personally, but yeah, I think his check will be okay."
Okay. And what's the aircraft you fly in Australia?
Cessnas.
Cessnas. Oh, okay. No problems with Cessnas?
No.
Go all right?
Go all right, yeah.
Enjoy the weekend so far? The air show?
Oh, it's been magnificent, hasn't it?
Yeah,
it's a credit to the organisers.
Yeah,
and it's a bit of a credit to the industry that so many people want to come back and meet old friends, you know.
That's good. Oh, what about you, John? You said you started in Rotorua. When did you start?
No, I actually didn't start in Rotorua. I started at Wellington Aero Club.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I think we both started at Wellington Aero Club about the same time.
Yeah, well,
I think that must have been about 1962 or 61, 62. Yeah.
So you got your pilot's licence in Wellington?
Yes.
And then you moved into the aviation side of it?
Yes, I went to Rotorua and did my commercial pilot's licence there with Ian Palmer, the late Ian Palmer.
Right.
And then I went back down to the South Island.
Sorry?
He was a professional beer drinker for a while.
Yeah, I went back down to the South Island and worked for Snow Gatehouse down there.
Okay.
That was about 1965. And he came down and he was my loader driver.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Talking to, what's his name, from Murwillumbah. He did the same thing after us.
Oh, yeah.
Graydon Tapp.
Can't recall it. Oh, Graydon.
Graydon Tapp. He came along after we were there, but Fissenden and Bishop and all those guys were still there. So apparently Jerry Fissenden lives at Harvey Bay, just down the road from us.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm going to find him when I get back.
Still flying, John?
No, I retired about 3 months ago.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you sit back and just relax and just take it easy for a
No,
while?
I'm washing dishes.
You're washing dishes?
Natural skills for an ag pilot.
I own the airport cafe at Rotorua now.
Oh, good stuff, yeah, okay, yeah. Oh, so still in aviation though, aren't you?
Yeah, still fairly close. Still out of all the years, I've still managed to hold on to one aeroplane.
Oh, that's good.
So
yeah.
we use it as a family hack now.
Good on you. All right, okay, well, I hope you enjoy your weekend and we'll see you another 5 years' time at the 55th.
Yeah, well, let's hope so, Mario.
Okay, catch you later, mate. Stories about this young fella here. What sort of stories can you tell about him?
Very good to show us to civil aviation.
Right.
Civil aviation, they were my friends.
No, my friends.
They seem to be.
They looked after us, Mario, yeah.
Civil aviation looked after you, have they?
Yeah, they always told us, look after those young pilots on Marston because, you know, you're going to be a role model to them. And, of course, it didn't work out that way.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
We're a bit of Arabs ourselves.
So you're a bit of embarrassment to civil aviation at times, were you?
That's right.
That's
Anyway.
good. Enjoy the weekend so far?
Lovely, lovely, Mario.
Good weekend, and we'll see you here again in another 5 years at the 55th
Right.
day.
Yeah, we'll be here.
You'll be here.
Alec will be
we
here
might
too.
bring our sticks with us next time.
That's right. Beautiful music here tonight, beautiful show, meeting a lot of old friends. It's a great night. Great night,
All right,
Mario.
we'll carry on and we'll see
Hey,
you
Alec.
shortly later on then.
Haven't seen old Alec for 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah. How the hell is old Goose used to say, you look so old, I'm so young. No, Alec, great, man.
That's
Thanks,
good.
Mario.
All right, we'll catch later on then.
Right on, mate.
Okay, we've got Noel Kimvick here, and when did you start flying, Noel?
Well, I learnt in Masterton in 1956.
1956?
Yep.
And what sort of aircraft did you learn to fly in?
Tiger Moth.
Tiger Moths. So
Yes.
you learned to spray in Tiger Moths and that?
No, I learned to fly in the Tiger Moth.
Right.
The first guy that was game enough to employ me was Bill Cookson in Wairau.
Right.
And I went on to Piper Super Cubs.
Piper Super Cubs, okay.
Yep.
That's in the Gisborne area. And how long were you up there for?
I was there until about 1963.
Right.
And then I went to Masterton and flew for Colin Thorne, Air Contracts.
Air Contracts, okay, yeah.
And then I was headhunted by Field Air.
Field Air, yep.
Flew with Field Air until 1966.
In Marston again, or?
Marston and Gisborne, more or less over the whole of East Coast.
And I understand you're overseas now.
Yeah, in 1966 I left, May 1966 I left for England.
Okay, right.
1967 I came back for another 3 months.
Right.
Back over to Europe and joined a Swiss company and been with them ever since.
A Swiss company?
Yes.
Okay, what's the aircraft you're flying over there then?
Pilatus Porter turbine, yes.
Is spraying, still spraying, or?
No, I quit spraying in 1991. I quit spraying.
Right.
I landed in a cemetery.
Okay.
And
accidentally, I take it.
Yes, accidentally.
Yes.
Broke a few bones and said. They kicked me out and said, I said, well, that's enough of ag flying.
Right, okay. So what sort of flying are you doing now then?
I joined the relief operations.
Right, okay, yes. So search and rescue type stuff?
No, I was in the, actually was flying for ICRC, it's the International Red Cross, United Nations.
Right, okay.
I did the border patrol between Iraq, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, after the Kuwaiti war.
After the war, yeah. After there's a storm.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
right,
Yep. And then I've been in various operations, East Pakistan floods, Ethiopia, started the Ethiopian Red Cross off.
Okay, right, okay. So you had a bit of a colourful sort of career and sort of seen a few countries and that?
Yes. And
you still enjoying it?
Oh, sure. I'm on the oil patch at the moment.
Oil patch, okay, yes. Still flying the Pilatus or?
Still flying the Pilatus.
Okay, yeah. Good aircraft, eh?
Not too bad, not too bad.
And have you enjoyed the weekend so far?
Fantastic. I would come twice around the world for it.
Yeah, it's good.
I've come halfway around the world.
Halfway around the world, yeah. Okay, you might see you here another 5 years for the 55th one.
I hope so.
Well,
I'm living in Budapest and...
Budapest?
Yes.
Okay,
and,
you're working there as well?
No, I live there and work abroad. I work,
right.
5 on, 5 off.
Okay, so why Budapest of all places?
My wife is Hungarian.
Oh, that's...
Would you like to meet her sometime?
that answers the question, right, yeah.
Yeah, she's here.
Okay, that's good, yeah. All right, excellent. So you brought her over with you as well to see all the... all the boys from way back?
Meet all these Kiwis.
Oh, good stuff, yeah. All right, and well, we might see you again another 5 years' time and enjoy yourself and safe flying.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good luck.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We got Mike Cronin here, or Sir Michael, as some people call him.
Well, no, one day.
One day.
Mister at the moment.
When did you start your flying career, Mike?
In an aeroplane.
When?
Oh, when? When?
Yeah, when? In the 40s?
Oh, no, when I jumped off. No, when I jumped off the tank stand.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And whereabouts did you start flying?
Oh, in the air.
Oh, we got a right one here, haven't we? Whereabouts were you flying?
Above the ground.
Above the ground. Oh, that's very good. Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed the weekend.
I did.
A little drink. And we'll catch up to you next time.
No, I learned to fly in Whanganui. But I learned to fly in Whanganui, but in actual fact, an aeroplane did help a lot.
Did help a lot.
Yes.
What sort of aeroplane?
I think it was a Cessna 150 or a Victor 115. Yes.
And whereabouts? Top best of all time?
Yes.
Okay. And no little all straight flying, good flying?
Pardon?
All good flying, good, nice straight flying, no bent props?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, no, bent a few props.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
You want to tell us one story of there you've been a prop?
Beer bottle did help one. Yes. Now, I don't know whether the beer bottle did it or I helped the beer bottle do it.
And did you enjoy the weekend so far today?
Certainly, definitely did.
Good stuff, eh? Go to the air show?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, I actually flew in the air show.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Which one were you?
In the Ulster.
The Ulster, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, the green machine.
No. Alpha Whiskey Hotel, AWH.
Right. Yeah, I got you now. Okay. Oh, well, might see you in 5 years' time, do another show, eh?
Oh, yes.
Bound to.
Bound to.
All right, we'll get to that on.
Okay, be good.